good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this spinning planet of ours. My name is Frank Lavinia, and you can catch me. There we go. You can catch me on various social media platforms as at Frank Diggs Data. You can always check me out my blog, franksworld.com, datadriven.tv, and the blog slash podcast Impact Quantum. Today, you hear my dogs howling. Um, it's always a zoo, especially when I start live streaming. So here's some product placement. There we go. And I'll try to hush them while I play the Max Impact Tuesday. All right. So today is Max Impact Tuesday. And, today is Tuesday. And, it's for maximum impact. No room for low impact type stuff. One of the things that happened while I was in at reInvent, and I was so laser focused on my presentation and getting everything ready for that, was the release of Chat GPT. And of course, the dogs are howling and they're being wild. But such is life here at Chateau Lavinia. The point of this talk, and if you saw my LinkedIn post, you probably saw this. So, what's fascinating about this is how good this thing is and how this is going to transform a lot of industries. And I really do wonder what the impact this is going to be on software engineering. Now, let's show, if I say, show me a sample quantum computer program. Oh, my session has expired. Nothing quite like a live stream. Oh, that's hilarious. Right, two truths. That's funny. Oh man, this worked just before I did the live stream. This is always how it is. All right. So while I try to get that working, I will take any questions. So one of the things, if you saw from my LinkedIn Live, was the fact that I asked it to write a quantum computer program, and I haven't tried to compile it or run it. Oh, I will later on roads, of course, because where we're going, we will need roads. The interesting thing is it actually did a good job of writing and explaining. So writing code is one thing, right? Having computer systems generate code is not necessarily kind of new or groundbreaking, but having computer systems, you ask it, kind of give it a general parameters, and it explains it. It kind of wrote the text before and after. So let's see if I can get this working again. Cat.openai. Log in. Let's see if we can get this working. Continue with Google. Come on. Nothing like a live stream demo to go fail, huh? I haven't had one of these in a while. And you know what really matters is that the demo at the big conference worked okay. So that's really what matters. All right, let's see if this works. So here's a pre-canned example, right? How do I make an HTTP request in JavaScript? Let's see. And I'll get more nuanced requests, assuming this works. There we go. So let me rearrange the size of the window so this works okay. And I will look at the code. There we go. So what's interesting is that it's generating the code, right? Which is one level of impressiveness, but it also has a pretty good metadata explanation of why it's doing what it's doing, which I think for me was the part that really was amazing. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know I do this test, and I've done this test with Alexa, and Alexa now actually does do it. So we'll wait till this completes. But you see how this does this. So now obviously it's a pre-canned example. So let's switch it up a bit. Could you write a program, a quantum computing program that demonstrates? I haven't tried this one, so this is really going to be Shor's algorithm. Let's see what happens. I really don't know what's going to happen. Like this is a different prompt. It's not possible to demonstrate Shor algorithm as Shor algorithm is theoretical. Oh, come on. Okay, so now it's getting me on a technicality. That's awesome. If AI is going to be our coworker, which it certainly is looking that way, it needs to get a little bit more nuance. But it is correct in the sense that, yeah, you really can't. At least if you could demonstrate Shor's algorithm, I'm sure that nation states and their intelligence agencies have already figured it out, or they're close to figuring it out, and they're not going to tell us anytime soon. So this is pretty interesting. I mean, it's going through, and what fascinates me is it's actually putting the comments in the code. Network error. And what happened here? Oh, it's brilliance. It must be really under a lot of load. Now that's it. Look at this. This gave me a slightly different answer. I'm glad I have this on recording. Right. So now it's saying that this demonstrates Shor's algorithm. Doesn't give me the whole, well, technicality thing. And who knows what'll happen with this code. I'm surprised that it actually flushed the input buffer like that in the chat. That seems like because it already did the work. It already did the generation. So why would it dump that out like that? That's fascinating. That sounds more like a front end error. Because the hard part is what it's doing now. So again, it just blows my mind that this is actually producing comments in code, right? Like you would if you were writing a book or whatever. And this is showing the sample output. I mean, and it's given actually a pretty good description of what's going on under the hood. Like the one I shared the other day, I was just messing around with it, and it gave a pretty good explanation, better than a lot of books I've read, of what superposition is and how you can work with superposition. So this is going to change things. This is really going to change things. Now, people tend to overestimate what they could do in a year and underestimate what they could do in 5. And I think in technology, I think that's also writ pretty large, right? People will overestimate what technology is going to do in the near term and underestimate what it'll do in the long term. I think you need to look no further than your smartphone to see examples of that, right? There was all this talk about how it was going to change things right away. I had a similarly kind of powered smartphone, or at least conceptually, kind of a similar type device when I had this, right? And this dates back to, I think I got this in 2003 or 2004, right? It has a touchscreen, has kind of all the things. Didn't really have a self card in it, but that was, the point is that people thought this was going to change the world. And it kind of did, just not in the way we expected. I have another phone device that was a year or two later than this that had a lot of the same features of your average smartphone today. But what really changed, it really changed over time when technology was perfected and kind of evolved in ways we couldn't perceive. So, a good example is Uber or Lyft, right? You've seen the meme or the joke that's out there about how don't talk to strangers on the internet became use your phone to call a stranger or get in a car with them on the internet, right? And that has really disrupted the taxi industry and a lot of other things too. So, I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of pundits saying this is going to change the world. This is going to end software engineering. This is going to end its career. I don't think so. It'll definitely change the way we work with this. I mean, there's GitHub Copilot. AWS has something called, I think it's Code Whisperer. Visual Studio has some kind of the new one has some kind of AI assistant. It's really going to be, for lack of a better term, IntelliSense on steroids, I think, at a minimum. But I don't think it's going to replace the need for software engineering. I think the somebody posted last night on LinkedIn or Twitter that it's basically this is the end of the leak code interview. So if you're not familiar with what is leak code, actually, let's ask ChatGPT. What is leak code? Let's see. All right. Well, technically speaking, that's not where I was going with. But one of the things that, and this is always kind of bothered me about some type of technical interviews, is that they want you to like right there write a program, right? Like, sit in the IDE and do it. Now, I understand the why that is considered ideal, but for me personally, thinking through a problem is the most important part, right? Thinking through what do you want your program to do? How do you want it to flow? The details do matter, but in terms of, I want to know if I'm interviewing someone, I want to know how they think. I want to know, do they think end to end? Do they think with the end in mind? Do they start from the beginning? Do they kind of meander? Or do they step back and think about the big picture and how it would integrate into other things? None of those answers are right or wrong. It just depends on how someone thinks. And that's the thing that you're going to be working with someone the most in that regard. And I don't know. That's what I think. So I do this test to see if an NLP or chat model can understand context. So Alexa used to fail at this, but now I actually tested her this morning, and it worked. And I've tested it intermittently, and it does. It it used to work about half the time, so that tells me that there's doing some testing and some A/B testing. But today it worked, and it worked the other day. So let's test this. This worked the other day. Um, so let's here. Let me put me in the bottom and let the AI be the star of the show. Can I move where I am? I can't move where I am. Alrighty then. All right. I can move this window though. Any questions or anything you want me to ask Chat GPT-3? There we go. That'll work. All right. Who is the Wu-Tang Clan? A little bit of shout out for Staten Island. So this is going to give an answer, which is correct. And pretty nuanced answer, pretty good. Let's try something else. Let's try. Wait. Now, this may seem like a trivial question, but this has to know the context. So what used to happen with Alexa is you would ask her, I would ask the same questions, right? And this ChatGPT-3 is getting this right, which is actually pretty cool. Curiously enough, Alexa gives me a different answer. That's I think the term album may be the um, the hanging point. I just realized that the answer includes a censored bad word, but thus it is. Let's see. Tell me about where they originated. So if it's smart enough, it's going to pick up Staten Island. It did. Wow. So there's a lot of things going on here. One, there's context that's being um, uh, kept from what's called turn to turn, right? Who was the Wu Tang Clan, right? And I have to keep that kind of in, for lack of a better term, kind of temporary memory that says, well, who am I talking about? And then I ask it, what was their first album, right? So it has to track their first album and then look that up. Now, that apparently, has been solved, but that was not a trivial problem to solve because Cortana failed at it, Google Assistant failed at it, Alexa failed at it for the longest time. I haven't tested Google, and I can't test Cortana anymore. All right. So that having been said, let's take a look at this here. So it said, tell me about where they originated, right? So this also requires a little bit of context mapping too. Um, this says that the Wu-Tang Clan originated in Staten Island, and now it talks about Staten Island, which is impressive, actually, how it kind of knew this. This is the type of wizardry that blows my mind. The fact that it can keep context from sentence to sentence and infer things based on some aspects of language that are a bit of human language that are a bit fuzzy. And the fact that it did this with very little challenge at all is quite impressive. I'm actually going to give them a thumbs up because that was um, impressive. Most impressive. All right. So it's pretty interesting how this did catch that. So I can also ask it to write code. So let's say, how do I parse a CSV in Python? So it's not only telling me, but it's actually giving me the sample code. Now I think this is going to be, I think this is going to be revolutionary in terms of teaching people how to code. I don't know how this is going to impact software engineering. I think it will impact it. Just question is it going to be net negative or net positive? But it's definitely going to change how you learn because you can ask this questions. Um, and one of the things I saw, I mean, most people would just go to Google and it would take you to Stack Overflow when you copy the code. So let's ask another question. Um, how can you summarize an article? Because this is something I heard. So maybe this, I'm not currently in browser web, right? I'm a large language model. Okay. So in this aspect, this is a very well designed chatbot because it does kind of have this out. Because if you ask it questions, open the pod bay, see if it does this. This is impressive. I don't think this is sentient, but its ability to understand language is uncanny. Um, I think this is definitely going to change the way we approach software development. It's definitely going to change for sure chatbots that you see in terms of support chatbots. I think they're about to get better. I think this is a fascinating look at the future of this technology. I was skeptical at first that people were getting really kind of excited, maybe even overexcited and buying into the hype. But I think in this case, it's well deserved. If you have any questions you want me to ask the Chat GPT through live here, Chat GPT, not Chat GPT 3. This is a different thing. But I am impressed with how well this is put together. I would like to know more. One thing. Oh, actually, why don't I ask the chatbot? Can you tell me what data you were trained on? Nope. Okay. Well, okay. How about this? What is GPT-3? Let's see. Is GPT interesting? So this is pretty interesting in terms of what it's this. How about something very real? Why do dogs whine sometimes? The chat's like, "What? That's a massive context switch." I think I may have broke GPT-3. Oh, there we go. Well, he just fed, he just had water, and he was just outside. So he's probably whining for attention. And the fact that I'm petting him now when he stopped whining does tell me to do that. But it's interesting how wide of a subject range this covers. So let's see. What else can we ask it? What I was gonna type in what is love, lady? Don't know. Do you know the Muffin Man? Maybe it does know the Muffin Man. Right now, in some server farm somewhere, there's an AI going, what is this guy? Mm, interesting. Okay. I tried this yesterday and it gave me a different answer. So can I go? That's interesting. What else could I type in? I see I have a chat. Kevin, how are you? Can it combine two areas of expertise, math and physics? Let's give it a shot. Can you think of a question? And I'll put the chat up here. That way I can be a little more transparent. And I'll put myself down the bottom. Let's see. How can we combine two areas of expertise? What is the role of probability in quantum mechanics? Try that. That's math and kind of physics. That's the best I could do on so little coffee on a Tuesday morning. I wonder if they're tracking metrics on kind of like what the basic questions are and stuff like that. I would imagine they are. Probability plays a central role in quantum mechanics. In classical mechanics, the state of a physical system. Probably said it. Interesting. Kevin, you do a lot of work with quantum computers and health. What's a good question I can ask it? And the only thing I can think of right now would be something about protein folding. Like um, what in 14? Okay, so I didn't miss your question by like 20 minutes. What is the role of protein folding in disease or cancer? How about that? So this is interesting. I'm fascinated by this, and I wonder. I need to read the docs to see if there's other stuff I could do with this in terms of. So, for instance, I got a ton of books, right? A lot of them are ebooks, and could I feed it that and ask it questions? Like, could I feed it like custom PDFs and stuff like that? There we go. Look at this. Protein folding is the process in cancer. Abnormal protein folding can play a role in development and progression of the disease. Wow, look at this. So let's ask, how can quantum computing help in determining protein folding, in predicting? So that works. All right, so this is interesting. They have a OpenAI Discord channel, which I don't know about you, but like Discord, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like it's kind of like if Slack is like like a big room where everybody's talking all at once, like a big cafeteria type space. Discord seems like a giant like dance club where everybody's shouting and like doing all these crazy things like all around you. So let's see what it says. Look at this. Wow. I mean, this is not only is it to me look like an accurate answer, but it's a pretty well formulated answer, right? I mean, obviously the grammar is right, but I mean, it does a really good job of explaining these complicated concepts. This is amazing. I mean, just think about this. Think about the wow. Where I see this being a huge help is sometimes if you have writer's block and you're trying to figure out how would you explain something, right? So here's interesting. Here's a real example. And we're gonna do this live. I was trying to explain the plot to a movie for a book that I'm currently writing. So, what is the plot of the 36 Chambers, kind of a Wu Tang kind of day, um, of Shaolin? Right, and I wasn't happy with the first way I wrote it, but like if this will do it, I can kind of see like, oh, yeah, it does a good job of explaining it, assuming it knows about it. We should play the Jeopardy theme when we wait for an answer. Here we go. Wow. This is a really good description of the movie. Wow. I may copy and paste this actually. Um, or at least be inspired by it. I'll probably do some kind of modification to it, but kind of why I'm referencing it in the book. But this is amazing. Um, doesn't mention that when he becomes a monk, he has a different name. Um, but I have to say I'm impressed. I am really impressed with like how good of a job this is doing. Um, let's ask it the big question that's on everyone's mind. Will Chat GPT put humans out of work? So while it's answering that, oh, it is unlikely. Create new job opportunities. I mean, this is an interesting. It's interesting how quickly it came up with the answer, almost like it was cached or something. But the fascinating thing about Chat GPT 3, and I do have to go in a little bit. The fascinating thing for me about Chat GPT 3 is how good it is, how wide, how good is it writing code or at least explaining concepts around code. Um, I, and I would say this, right? So for the longest time, pundits, AI people, myself included, I guess I'm a little bit of both, have been saying that this is not going. AI is going to affect kind of the low skilled jobs first, right? The checkout counters that are now. Oh, the lighting is terrible today. I'll put myself down in the bottom again. um, is that it's going to affect or impact the low skilled jobs first. And I mean there is some truth to that, right? I when I was in San Francisco, I saw a robot was making um, um, coffee, right? It was making coffee. Um, and at Vegas there was a robotic bartender, that sort of thing. But what we're seeing, particularly in the generative space with artwork and things like that, it is doing a really good job of generating art. And so all the creative class of people were thinking that they were going to be affected last by AI. And I think if anything we've seen in 2022 at all, it's like that may not be the case. And when you see ChatGPT 3 kind of coming up with this, um, it's fascinating. So, Kevin, I got a question from Kevin. Kevin says, thanks for asking. Um, can it summarize recent technical documents? So let's give it a shot. If you know a name of a classical, let's see, can you summarize? Yep. Can you think of a good paper? What's a good academic paper? And I don't know how long ago this was trained. So let's assume something about a year or two old. Can you summarize? Let's pick a book. War and Peace. Not able to summarize specific books or articles, large language. Okay. How about we ask it a different question? What is the plot? Oh, it's answering it anyway. That's awesome. It's answering it anyway. I'm sorry, I can't do that. But here's what I know. Let us. What are let's ask in a more abstract themes of fear and loathing in Las Vegas. It includes excess and excess. I mean, man, I tell you, plagiarism isn't going to be the same again. I mean, kids writing papers now. I mean, what is the plot to the Hunger Games? I mean, let's see if it knows this. Does and I had a lot of coffee. It's just kicking in now. All right, let's see. See if it knows this, because the author actually did explain this. Look at this. It knows it. That's amazing. Wow. Spoiler alert for the Hunger Games, but honestly, it's 2022. And if you haven't read the books, wow. All right. So I am thoroughly impressed by how good this model is. This model is. Thanks, Kevin, for tuning in live. Let me know if you're watching this later. Put in hashtag replay or hashtag live if you're watching it live. And if you have any questions you want to ask GPT-3, let me know. Let me know if you want to come on a live stream. We can kind of interview GPT-3 on our own and see what happens. With that, I'm going to end the stream and say thank you very much, Kevin, for tuning in live. And where are my outro graphics? Have a good one.